Welcome to Cohen in the City. And as people who know me are aware that I'm a big fan of the Cummings Centre, very involved in the sports celebrity breakfast, and they've just been doing an outstanding job during this pandemic. Converting their activities online and showing that internet has no age. Right now, the Cummings Centre has a terrific program coming up in January. It's a virtual conference, Aging Well, Adapting to the New Reality. Registration is now open. It's their first ever bilingual national conference, and it'll be held from 10:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, January 21st. And joining me is Laya Feldman, who is the chair of the conference, and Stuart Himmelfarb, who is coming to us via the United States of America, and he is one of the keynote speakers. Why don't we just start off right away, Laya, with you telling us about what this conference is all about?
My pleasure, Mike. Well, I think the Cummings Centre saw the conference as a vehicle to begin to discuss and address some of the issues of concern for the senior population with the advent of the pandemic. It is our hope that it will provide opportunities to become better informed, to be able to share information, and ultimately begin to make some of the changes that are necessary to help the senior population adapt to the new reality and create a better quality of life.
It sounds very, very interesting. And Stuart, you're doing presentations like looking forward, adapting to the new reality. That's kind of your theme. You're with the Jewish Boomer platform. You're a senior fellow at NYU Wagner. What can we expect to hear from you at the conference, Stuart?
Well, first off, thanks for having me, Mike and Laya. Great to be with you as well. The focus of the conference is very engaging for us because it is looking at not only what this pandemic and this time is doing, but what opportunities there might be going forward. So the word forward is really the key one for us. And the work we do, and that I do with my fellow speaker, Rabbi Laura Geller from Los Angeles, the work is really focused on better understanding this time, this life stage for baby boomers and for others who are aging, but are finding that the path of aging has changed dramatically. And that's true even before the pandemic. So what we are looking forward to sharing with the group in January is how has the pandemic changed the conversation that we already needed to have in order to be sure that we are understanding and serving the needs of those who we like to call active aging, but also those who have perhaps hit a bump in the road in terms of health or finances and need other kinds of assistance. So there's a lot more dimension to this issue, and we're happy to kind of share our perspective on the aging landscape.
Laya, the pandemic started in March. The Cummings Centre is targeted to the 50-plus generation. I'm 58. I'm involved in the Cummings Centre, but I'm not necessarily a client. But many of the clients of the Cummings Centres are in their 70s and their 80s, and everyone seems to have engaged in social media. You've got people on Zoom, so you really made a quick transition to the new reality.
That we did, and we hope, picking up on what Stuart said, that we are looking forward and that this will give everyone an opportunity to become involved. But I do want to say that I was thinking that although our target population is age 50 plus, that it is really a wonderful opportunity for anyone who has a family member that's a senior to participate, to better understand what is happening to us and how we are going to be able to adapt in the future.
I agree. And Stuart, I'm sure that conferences like this, especially in the winter when it's cold, people are isolated. Those who are, those definitely don't have a family. to get on the computer and be able to spend a day doing this, it's good for the psyche.
It is, in fact, and one of the things, actually, Laura and I wrote an article not long ago about this topic, and we highlighted 4 areas of particular impact that the pandemic has had. And a key one is technology and access to technology. So for those who are home and just actually, as we speak, there is an imminent lockdown here in New York, and that's really unsettling. But technology has opened up the world for everybody in a way that will, even after the pandemic, I think things will never be the same again in terms of isolation and loneliness, which is one of the most feared kind of accompaniments to aging. There are those for whom that's really the thing that they fear most about aging, is becoming isolated and perhaps, out of conversation and out of contact with other people. So having a conference that brings these issues to people, and by the way, I'm going to assume, I know I've sent out a lot of emails about it to colleagues and friends around the country and the continent. I hope we're going to attract a very wide audience of people. I did want to add, in terms of the target audience of the conference, the fact that professionals and those who are responsible for creating programs, that they're part of the audience, is really critical, because we have found and long felt, I've been doing this for about 10 years now, we have long felt that those who decide on the priorities, on the agenda in the community, and in particular in the Jewish community, have really not yet embraced the conversation about active aging and the need for new kinds of programs. So it's been a group that's been left out, especially in terms of national conversations. I say that with full cognizance that the Cummings Centre in Montreal is unique in how broadly it does address that problem. So I want to be careful that in this critique, that the folks at the Cummings Centre know that I admire the work they've done. What's unfortunate is that they're unique, and that there are very few places. There's an initiative starting at the JCC in Manhattan. Other than that, there are very few places in the States, for example, in the Jewish community, where there's that kind of a full portfolio of programs to address this life stage. So having program people as well as younger people in the audience is a way for us to help highlight this, and we hope ignite some creative response to it, rather than just let it go, or those folks will come if they're interested, but not to think seriously about what are the specific programs and needs that the people who are in this life stage have that we can better address.
If I can just add, Mike, that yes, I think because the Cummings Centre is unique in what it does, that it is able to develop, to conceptualize, and then to develop this type of conference. It is innovative, it's interactive, it's exciting, it's bilingual in that there is simultaneous translation. And we have also reached out to other cultural communities to join in the conversation, so that we will begin to build a plan of action to address some of the issues, perhaps reinforce existing partnerships and create new ones. So that's all part of our long-term objectives. And our registration has been very encouraging, and we're getting a very nice diversity of registrants. So I'm confident that we will begin to have a conversation that is broad and that will have an impact on the senior population.
Very interesting. And now, Stuart, one last question for you. I've been doing some research on you, and you've written a lot about older adults and the plague of loneliness during the pandemic. intensified by physical distancing, and the higher vulnerability of over 60 to the coronavirus that confronts our children with, you say, their first serious encounter with the health challenges their parents and grandparents face.
Yeah, that's one of those elements in the pandemic. I'm not saying that there weren't people in this life stage who already had some physical challenges and that their families weren't aware of it. But what I am saying is that a whole new cohort of people over 60 who view themselves as I do, as healthy and active and, still in my mid-20s, at least inside, going to rock concerts and growing beards and letting our hair grow long and doing all these fun things and hiking with my son and camping. All of a sudden, even in that situation, my son who's a millennial, is concerned about seeing us because he doesn't want to infect us, because we are over 60, my wife and I, and that if we have any higher level of risk associated, all of a sudden, the person that I go hiking with, my son, is now tapping the brakes and saying, I'm nervous, and I'm nervous about getting you sick. And that's confronting a new reality that most of us hoped would be much further into the future. Look, the inevitability of aging, the aches and pains slowing down a bit and other issues, as I said earlier, those health-related bumps in the road, these are inevitable, and it is part of active aging to confront that and to prepare for it, to stay active, to exercise, to eat well, and all those right things, as well as addressing issues of the spirit. And that's where, our religious communities come in. But, the pandemic shows up and all of a sudden screws up that timeline and forces young people to say, I can't be nonchalant anymore about my parents. So, the same kid who goes to Bob Dylan concerts with me is now saying, I'm nervous for you.
Yeah. Well said. And I feel kind of the same way with my mom, who's in her 80s, and it's kind of a back and forth, the same type of situation. Laya, final note: a lot of work went into this with your committee, and you were able to get, even in this time of kind of a recession that we're going into because of the pandemic, you were able to get some corporate sponsors who stepped in so that you only have to charge people $25 to see this wonderful conference.
Absolutely. I think that that's clearly an indicator of recognizing the need for the conference. And I do want to point out, Mike, that registration does stop January 10th, even though the conference is on the 21st. Because it is virtual and it is new to us, we need time to develop a very slick conference and one without glitches. So I would encourage people to please register as soon as they can so as not to miss this wonderful, wonderful conference.
All right, well, we will include in the description of this video the details on the conference, how to register, the website, and so on and so forth. I want to wish you both the best of luck, and I'm sure it's going to be a great conference. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for this opportunity.
All right, everyone, tune in and watch.